What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. Although I haven't played too much JINX in the past, she's a character that I've always enjoyed quite a lot. You know, that eccentric kind of chaotic neutral kind of character that just goes crazy and has so much fun. And JINX is the kind of champion that really does an awesome job of bringing that explosive personality to life through her gameplay elements. And she shows a lot about what is awesome in a champion's design. But it took a lot to get her to where she is now, and a lot of earlier variations of JINX have a lot of potential and were just equally as awesome. So join me today in taking a look at JINX's development cycle as we find out what JINX could have been. And if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, and if you don't, please hit that dislike. Anyways, let's get started. JINX is a champion that had a pretty interesting development story to her, in the sense that it shares a lot about the development process that I think is really cool. Champions always start somewhere. Someone like Braum started with the idea for his gameplay. Someone like Azir started with the idea for his character. But JINX is a champion that started with her art. Not the idea for a character, but just a literal drawing. What the art department at Riot Games does is they like to give their artists who work on champions as much freedom as possible to do whatever they can in order to allow everyone to just work on something that they're truly passionate about. So one thing that they have the art team do is design characters without any help or influence from the champion design team. The artists, you know, they just draw characters and bring their own ideas to life. And when Riot Gypsy Lord was first hired at Riot and brought to the champion design team, one thing Riot did to help him with his champion idea and picking champions to develop was they brought him this huge wall of just art and all of these different random drawings and sketches and designs the art team had developed to see if there were any that Gypsy Lord maybe liked and wanted to pursue. And from that wall of character concepts he was shown, he picked out this drawing and was drawn to it for a few reasons. This character piece was titled Psycho Arsenal and was made by Riot Tea Time. Gypsy Lord really loved two things about this piece. First off, this piece is just awesome, and the amount of personality that you can see from just the look on her face just shows so much about the character, and that idea of someone who is super crazy and hyper and excited and energetic and manic all wrapped up into one awesome girl. Gypsy Lord just loved that. And that personality, you know, like the crazy face, huge pigtails and everything, it just really clicked with him and he fell in love with the concept instantly. The second thing he really loved was this idea of having a whole bunch of different kinds of guns, and this idea of using all sorts of different guns in the vision that he had for what Psycho Arsenal could be when developed further. So after finishing Vi, he got to work on this character, who was called Psycho Arsenal for the majority of her development. They started by developing her art and her model a little bit further. Although the team that worked on JINX loved the concept art piece from Riot Tea Time, it did have some problems in the sense that it was extremely similar to a lot of other characters in League of Legends. She had the same body type as like Miss Fortune, Janet, Katarina, and she just really didn't feel that unique with dual pistols and a shock rifle, who were already weapons in the game in some other champions. And one thing Riot Gypsy Lord mentioned a lot when he talked about JINX's development on a panel in PAX East 2015 was that the most important part of the champion design process was figuring out the absolute best things about that character and then working from those and building the champion around those, rather than just worrying about every minor detail and the small things. And they loved this idea of having different weapons and of having this crazy fun-loving girl, and they decided to amp those all the way up to the max and put the body type to match. Eventually they settled on this idea of making Psycho Arsenal as a character be super skinny and small and just tiny, while carrying around these massive guns that she would have no right to be able to carry around the game, and this kind of model fit in line with that personality perfectly. Riot Tea Time developed this character model for the team, and everything just clicked, and Psycho Arsenal had her personality and character design set in stone. She went from being this typical female body type to being super tiny to create this awesome personality of this hyper crazy girl running around and having a blast. Literally. Now Psycho Arsenal's gameplay kit went through a little bit more complications, but she did have a lot of interesting elements. Going off of that idea of having a bunch of different guns and stuff, the idea that Riot Gypsy Lord wanted to bring to life from the start was essentially a character that he described as being ranged Udyr, where when you pressed Q, you equipped a rocket launcher that had some cool effect. When you pressed W, you equipped your shock pistol that had a cool attack. When you pressed E, maybe you equipped like a bow and arrow, and the ultimate was like some kind of super weapon or something. Essentially the same way Udyr has all of these different stances and melee attacks, but instead with it being ranged and using ranged attacks. This was the original gameplay design for Psycho Arsenal, and it was the vision Riot Gypsy Lord wanted to bring to life, no matter how crazy that concept might be. There's no denying that holy Batman, that is cool as heck. And they worked on that concept of being ranged Udyr quite a lot. They tested out loads of different weapons involving it. They didn't have perfect breathing room since they wanted Psycho Arsenal to have unique weapons, which limited a lot of things considering there's already quite a few characters in the game that use guns. They tested out things like a Hextech submachine gun, a taser crossbow, different versions of flamethrowers, I mean you name it, they tested everything. The weapons they decided that they liked the most was eventually the rocket launcher, the minigun, the taser pistol, and the grenades, and they really liked all 4 of those weapons quite a lot because those weapons are very intuitive for a character. Intuitive meaning that they're really easy to just read and understand what they're going to do, so it makes the character really fluid and feel natural and just kind of fun. Like, it's obvious to the player that a rocket launcher is going to do splash damage. It's obvious that a minigun is going to attack fast. Whereas things like a Hextech submachine gun might be kind of weird to understand for someone who doesn't really know what the ability does. And they started drafting up this ranged Udyr-esque kit, but after playtesting it quite a lot, they found that it didn't really feel that good to play with. Sure, she got to switch weapons all the time, and the weapons themselves were awesome, and switching between the different weapons was cool too, but she didn't really have this explosive gameplay, you know, that crazy feel and those epic moments that she really needed to fit in with her personality. The idea of a ranged Udyr was awesome, and it worked well, it just didn't fit on Psycho Arsenal, and didn't make sense with the personality of her character, which was the big selling point of Psycho Arsenal's design in the first place. Because she was ranged Udyr, you couldn't really put that much power on ability activations and on individual weapons either because, well, she's ranged Udyr. As cool as that concept is, there's no denying that it is a seriously powerful theme to work with, and is at a huge risk of being overpowered. That idea of a ranged Udyr though is super awesome, and I wouldn't be surprised, in fact I'd honestly straight up expect to see it sometime in the future on a different champion that has a personality or theme that fits in line with it a little bit more. So eventually they realized that Psycho Arsenal just could not be ranged Udyr, but they liked the feeling of having different guns and basic attacks, so they kept that and it became what her Q is today. And by putting 2 weapons into one ability, they opened up new spaces for new weapons and spells on the rest of her kit. Zap and Flame Chompers kinda just fell into place honestly since they liked the weapons. I mean, maybe they went through a few iterations on what the idea of Shock Blast and grenades did, but I don't really have too much information on those abilities specifically. However, her ultimate went through about 3 or 4 iterations, each equally as crazy as the next. One version of her ultimate was called Circle of Cats. In this version of her ultimate, she would shoot out a missile that caused this donut of magical smoke to appear that turned everyone hit by it into cats, similar to what Lulu's polymorph does. Now this ability would certainly be wacky, but it doesn't really go along with the whole guns and explosions thing, so it was scrapped. Another version was called Carpet Bomb. This ultimate would shoot out a global missile that dropped literally hundreds of bombs around the map as it flew. Think of each individual bomb as like a Ziggs Q, they were on that power level. Now this ultimate is pretty insane just on the sheer magnitude of it, but I'm not sure how much it makes sense for her. I mean, it seems maybe too big for her almost, or I guess not really fitting her style of like this solo character. It seems like something more fit for like a soldier who calls in an airstrike or something. And my favorite version of one of her ultimates in development was called Bring Down the Hammer. In this version, she would designate a location on the map, and then 4 seconds later, a huge laser beam would shoot out from the sky and annihilate anyone standing in the area. This version actually had a lot of potential, but a big giant rocket proved to fit her style a lot more than a big giant laser beam. So from this ultimate they switched to her shooting out this massive rocket. Originally her ultimate of Super Mega Death Rocket had a max range of 3,000 units, and instead she was able to detonate the area of effect radius at any time after launching out the rocket by reactivating the ability, causing shrapnel to rain down from the battlefield. It was a cool effect, but was deemed to not really be that crazy, and fit in with maybe more like a sniper or something, and eventually they came to the current version of Super Mega Death Rocket to be the best thing that fits everything of what they want and all that good stuff. And once they had the kit of the Q, W, E, and R, it was a pretty good kit, good character, you know, things fell into place for the most part, but there was one element that was still lacking after the fact in terms of making her kit fit in with her personality. And that was really that after making the kit, she didn't really feel all that crazy, actually. Sure, the weapons were exciting and explosive and she had powerful moments of gameplay, but not much about her was truly insane in the fun-loving way that they wanted her to be. And she kind of just felt like a sniper almost, with all these long-range guns and stuff. And then they took a look at the passive. Previously, her passive was that she gained 20 movement speed every time she killed a minion, but they decided that passive was just kind of boring. And although that passive might have been an okay concept, it wasn't good enough, so they decided to take it to the total extreme and give something like 1000% movement speed on champion kills for just a really short amount of time, 2 seconds. In playtesting, that new passive had this moment where the JINX player got a kill and then dove past the enemy AD carry, killed them too, and then totally lost control of themselves and ran straight into a tower and died instantly. And that was the moment where everything clicked and all of the ideas finally came together. She accomplished the idea of switching guns, she brought this feeling of being a hyper crazy, super ridiculous character that just blows everything up. They had to tone down the passive a little bit from 1000%, but it worked out pretty great when it came to really accomplishing that explosive feeling that they really wanted JINX to have of being just so crazy. And at that point, JINX was pretty much finished, and she would go on to get polished a bit more here and there, and eventually released as JINX, the Loose Cannon. She's definitely one of the characters in League of Legends that just has so much personality surrounding her, and her kit did an incredible job of capturing that personality, and making it feel like you really are playing this hyper excited, crazy girl that blows everything up. And I can honestly say that JINX ended up being an awesome champion, although I am looking forward to ranged Udyr coming out one day. Hope you guys enjoyed the look into JINX. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.